What's up? What's up? I feel pretty good to say good afternoon because the sun shines longer now. So good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us again for another week of See Us, the See Us podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest. I'm on one today. Anyway, I'm Shannon Hughes. I host the show. The See Us podcast is brought to you by the Narrative Justice. Before we get started with anything, we always want to give honor and respect to Leroy Powell. Leroy in 2014 was 15 years old. He was a witness witness to a attempted homicide turned infanticide. He went and gave witness statement. And what our local news decided to do was they decided to play this 15-year-old's witness statement on the 11 o'clock news. Both him and his mother very exposed. And very immediately they received death threats. And several days later, Leroy was found dead in an alley. So we always give respect to Leroy for this podcast and also for the narrative justice. That's actually how we got started because when I heard the story and as everything unfolded, it was very clear to me that it was our local media who killed that child. Like, they didn't care. They had no consideration for this kid's life. I mean, this is a 15-year-old kid in an active murder investigation, like, dog. But, they decided to expose this kid and his mother to violence, and violence did take place. So for that, we always want to honor Leroy, say his name repeatedly, but also as a reminder that we should always hold media accountable, particularly legacy media, which are typically white-led and white-founded. Because its narrative is so powerful. Like life and death is truly at the power of the tongue. And so if we're not careful about how someone else is representing us and how someone else is using or amplifying our narrative, it could end up bad on our end. So definitely want to give love and respect to Leroy. As a reminder, it only takes about 25% of the community to create change. And boy, a lot of changes have been taking place in this past week. Like wrapping my head around everything that has been going on has been super interesting. And I think this conversation itself speaks to that, change, the change that you want to see, being the change that you want to see in community. I think today is very much on par with with that, thematically on par with that. So again, it only takes about 25% of the community to create change. Pittsburgh proper is only about 310,000 people. It only takes about 25% of that 310,000 to actually make stuff shake. So don't ever think that you need everybody on board. If you believe something, move forward, continue to move forward, and eventually it'll happen. You don't need that many people. You don't need that much to make things take place. A quick update. So if you do remember, several weeks ago, we had Miss Cecilia Coleman on. Cecilia is the mother of Joe Hall. Joe and I are about the same age. He's like a few months younger than I am. Joe has been in jail since we were 17 years old. He was charged with murder. Unfortunately, another young man with the same nickname as Joe was killed in Homewood. Joe went to Otterdice. And so the broad strokes of that is that the young man was killed in Homewood. Someone who knows Miss Cecilia overheard, I think Lil Joey is his nickname, and I apologize, Miss Cecilia, if I got the nickname wrong, but heard that, this person was killed in Homewood, and told her, you need to go check it out because I think that's your boy. So she dips over from wherever she was over to, the scene. And of course, frantic as a mother would be, was trying to I think that's my son. And she said that the officer was like, I don't think it's your son. She was like, no, they said his name. And come to find out it wasn't her son. They just shared a nickname. But it was her mentioning Joe's name that automatically made him a suspect. So because the kids share a name, the fact that his mom went to the crime scene thinking that her son was murdered, that's how they connected her son to this unfortunate circumstance, tragic circumstance. So they had absolutely no evidence on Joe, absolutely none. Actually, they had more evidence that proves otherwise than for him. The ADA even said out of his mouth, we have no material evidence. to substantiate the claims that he's guilty of this crime. But we should indict him anyway, and that's what happened. So Joe's been in prison for about 14 years, and so he had wrote this thing. I asked Miss Cecilia if she can have him speak it to record it so that we can all hear Joe's voice. So I hope it comes through okay. We're gonna play it and see what happens. Give me 1 second.
This is Joseph Hall.
How? This is the $1 million one-word question. How can 3 eyewitnesses offer testimony that exonerates a person from a crime, but yet that person still sits in jail? How is that possible? How can a person's DNA and fingerprints be excluded from the vehicle he was alleged to be in, but yet still be placed in that vehicle? How can there be no shell casings found from the gun a person was alleged to fire 20 times? Maybe because that gun was not fired. That's how. How can a person be convicted by a witness who testified that he lied to save his own ass and would say whatever he needed so he did not go to jail? The witness lied and committed perjury. Doesn't perjury taint a person's entire testimony? The Commonwealth was less concerned with the interests of justice and more concerned with seeking a conviction. Tell me this. How can a judge fall asleep on a bench when exculpatory evidence is being offered and he's not being held accountable for his actions? Is that truly, really justice? Is it? How is it possible? Because the system is flawed and designed against men of color. There is no such thing as equal justice if you're a black man in this country. There is more than enough evidence and proof that I, Joseph Hall, is innocent. I'm sitting in jail for a crime I clearly didn't commit. I mean, it's obvious.
This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution. Forrest, this call is subject to recording and monitoring.
The people in power need to and must be corrected. They must correct this clear miscarriage of justice. When 3 eyewitnesses clear a man for a crime and he still sits in jail, the system has failed and will continue to fail if people don't stand up. Biased judges and nefarious prosecution will continue to happen if we the people continue to allow it. Free Joe Hall. It's not a moment, it's a movement. But it's only a movement if I get the public's help and assistance. Please, people, come to my aid.
Joe. Yeah, so that was from Joe Hall. Like I said, he's been in jail for the past 14 years since we were kids. Definitely needs your assistance, definitely needs your love, support, and amplify his story. Tell his story, look it up. Like there's, plenty of articles that were written on Joe. The judge he had mentioned that fell asleep during the last hearing is Judge Cashman, David Cashman, fell asleep during an evidentiary hearing. So I don't see how a person is supposed to preside over a case when you can't even stay awake during a hearing. Fun fact, David Cashman is also the judge who presided over the Johnny Gamish trial, and all 3 of those officers got off. And I'm sure enough of other cases as well that are quite interesting. But anyway, I'm jumping into my own head and I'm going down that rabbit hole. So I can stay on track. We're going to get started. I'll do the rest of my updates and such at the end so we can get our folks on here sooner rather than later. So I want to get started with Miss Nikki Jo Dawson. Nick, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining us today and having this conversation. I think it's super, super important.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Most definitely. So, well, you know what? I'm going to wait to ask you. I feel like I'd rather ask this as a conversation. So I'm going to bring everybody else on this if it's okay with you.
Sure.
All right, next we have Miss Cynthia Kenderson.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, thank you.
Word up. So Nikki Jo Dawson and Cynthia Kenderson are the owners of BlaQHouse Collection. It's one of our very few Black-owned galleries, art galleries in Pittsburgh. So thank you both for joining us today. And we have a family of few. We have the Chambers, Naomi and Darnell Chambers.
Hey, what's up, Debbie?
What's going on? How are y'all?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Dindy's in the mix.
See you.
I saw. So Naomi and Darnell are the founders of FlowerHouse Collective. Can y'all give a description of what FlowerHouse is? Like I always have, because it's so much, and I feel like I say it differently every time I say it.
Well, that's because it is that way to you, because that's, I guess, how we kind of left it open as well. We knew that when we came together with the collective members that we wanted to create an arts education space where people who couldn't normally come into contact with creating art or seeing art or being around it could be. So particularly the Black community here in Pittsburgh, who at times didn't feel connected to Pittsburgh's art scene. And so that's what we wanted to become. We also knew that that was very broad. And so being in Wilkinsburg, we wanted to leave room for the community of Wilkinsburg to also determine what that space would be for them exactly. So it was a rental space. It was art space, studio space. It was like, we called it when we were asked to speak officially about it, and formally we said it was a community art studio. So yeah,
beautiful. And all of those things, it was literally all of those things. Like I would stop past just to kick it, and different community members would just stop in and say what's up or ask for food or something, like just check in because they were having a hard time and they just felt safe enough there to come and check y'all out. And it was always dope, like just to watch community happen, like community in action. Super dope.
Yeah, definitely miss it.
Yeah, and so for anyone who's unaware, FlowerHouse was in Wilkinsburg, right on the main stretch, like right by Boost, I think it was.
It was Boost, and then Crabs R Us, and then on the other side was a nail salon. So yeah.
Yep. So right towards the end of Penn Avenue, well, not the end of Penn Avenue, but in my mind, Wilkinsburg, towards the end of Penn Avenue. FlowerHouse has since closed. And that was a wild situation. So we will get into that. But my first question is, Nay, Cint, and Nikki, have you all known each other prior? Like, are you all aware of each other?
No, I know Dolly from Nafasi. He's friends with my cohorts. I've heard awesome things about you, Naomi. I'm so honored to finally meet you, not just from the great things your husband has said, but also LaShonda and another girl that I'm going to be working with. Me and Nikki are going to be working with. They've spoke very highly of you as well. So
thank you.
yes.
Thank you. I'm really happy to meet you all.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, so though you all are just formally meeting and don't have an established relationship, the reason I wanted to have both BlaQHouse Collections and FlowerHouse Collective on this particular show talking about cancel culture. And FlowerHouse has had a particularly a particular experience that I was aware of, and it sounded very similar to an experience that BlaQHouse Collections is having now. I feel like this conversation is super important because like quiet as it's kept, this happens all of the time. Like this cancel culture happens quite often, and there's not much space to speak on it. First of all, you get gaslit to death, like people invalidate your experiences like up and down the road. So there's not much community in it, and therefore there's not much protection in it. But like I said, meanwhile, people are being harmed in this very, this very particular way. This really, this horrible way, So felt like it was a good opportunity to speak on it, and I feel like we're at a point in history where we're ready to move beyond to confront like the issues, like in the conflict and in the ways that we exist, move through it. So I'm gonna stop rambling. The first thing, so Dolly and Nay, to whatever capacity that you all want, can y'all discuss what is your relationship to cancel culture? What do you understand it to be, and like what relationship do you all have to it?
Yeah. My relation to it is, I'm still working to heal from what happened to me and my family. And when I think that I've gotten over certain things, I come in contact with someone who was a part of it, and I realize that however happy I am as a person, I struggle to even acknowledge them because I don't want to explore. And I'm really excited with about the point that I have come to, and I think that has only come because, luckily and thankfully, very close to the incident, we were able to sit down with two of the people and their mentors, and we had shared mentors, and we were able to talk through certain things, and apologize to each other, explain each other's experience. And as far as those direct people, I was even able to, I can even be Joe with them. And that's the thing, like they were coming at us for something that they believed in. And even though it wasn't the right way or placed the right way, I could see. The only thing I would say is my husband was never given that experience because it was woman to woman, and he never got that moment to sit with the other person who who was a part of it and involved in a very big way. The person that was attached to us and like work through it. And I was able to speak with the person who it was all about, the person who was harmed the most in all of it. And this person was able to tell me that she didn't have any ill will towards me. So in that, I was able to heal. Now, the thing about cancel culture is with us, when it happened, we only knew of the people that stepped forward and assaulted us. We didn't know who was all behind the scenes spreading things, telling people not to come to our events. So, there's this thing when you exist as something other than yourself. So we had this platform that us and these other collective members had created, and they were this thing was bigger than us, even though it was us. Like, we're not Walmart, we don't have this big machine behind us. Like, FlowerHouse existed because we were putting our time, money, effort. We were, my daughter was 1 at the time, and the energy that, was going into new mothering was also going into this building. It was all we had. And it was something that was like our lifelong dream to have, And so having this thing was like, we were all in. And it just sucks because the people who had nothing, zero invested, were the ones who saw no value in it, and decided that it was not worth trying to protect or trying to keep in a community. So we had people in the community who came to our space and who saw value in it. And, they didn't understand what was happening, but people who had really not even been there for an event really were the ones like, don't do this, don't do that, and just trying to tear it down. So I learned that people who have no stake in what you're trying to do are the ones that you probably need to watch out for. Because even the person who brought us the trouble and the drama didn't have a real stake in our situation. And so for him, for this person, it was nothing off their back to have done what they did. And then it was a long time coming for that person to even come to our family and to apologize for everything that they had brought our way. And it was a lot of work on our part to just like remember who we were, remember why we were doing what we were doing, and not let these things that people were saying about us, determine who we were. Like staying in remembrance of who we were was very important. Like us talking to each other, and we have our husband and wife squabbles all the time, but we definitely leaned into each other at that time. I was worried about a couple of things. I was scared. The accusations that were coming against us, like to see your name, first and last name, in the same sentence as rape. To see your first and last name in the same as saying you're protecting a rapist and you don't value and care about Black women when you are a Black woman. And that's like, and it's all these things that were just, and nothing was no things were said that was the full picture. People were never given the truth of what happened. And when I heard the truth of, when I didn't even know the truth of what happened until we all had sat down. And when I knew the truth of what happened, I bawled my eyes out to even know that, that our space was a part of something that was forever going to be a trauma in someone's life, So sitting down for me helped me, but I know a lot of people who get hit by culture cancer never get an opportunity to sit and speak with the people who have leveraged and waged this against them. They never get an apology. They always, a lot of people have to get through this themselves. So I was grateful for that. What I will say is someone had came to us and was telling us, this person, this was one thing I'll never forget. This person is told me to boycott, your space. And I said, who? And he was like, yeah, such and such cornered us while we was in dinner and told us to boycott your space. And I was so surprised because I knew this person's mother. Like this person's mother comes to me and asks me about my father and my uncles and stuff. And I'm like, really? And so that had like things like that were the things that hurt me. That was just like people that I knew and thought like cared about, me as a person, my family, my daughter. She was included and talked about in the back and forth. And I'm like, she's a baby, y'all. But I'll say I saw this person at Target, and this is how I knew I wasn't over it. I saw this person at Target and they were so happy to see me and they were talking, and I was blindsided. I was just like, because I was still holding on to this hurt. And I don't think that people understand how deep it gets. Like when it happened, I was scared somebody was going to throw a brick through our window in our space while I'm sitting with my, you know what I mean? Because the things that they were saying about us and the way that they said it, they said, I need people to care. Like it was like a call to arms, and you don't know what people think that they're doing on behalf of what's right and wrong. And so automatically it became this thing of us being wrong and this is right. And if you stand for right, you're against this. And it was just like, wow, like we are this in this instance, it wasn't us. This thing that happened was wrong, but we are not an institution that is based on wrong. We're not a group of people that seek to hurt. And I feel like that's the biggest problem with cancel culture, is that there was no room for healing. It was all hurt. It was like when someone does something and you just strike back, and it's like to teach a lesson, that there's no room for. Yeah. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, truth be told, I've never really dealt with cancel culture like that. Being a Black man, I feel canceled anyway. And truth be told, I really didn't give a F, you know what I mean? Like, just because I knew what we stood for, and I done put so much time and money and effort into doing what we was doing, that was all my focus was on, for real. Like, the biggest thing for me was just keeping my family's name out of it, you know what I'm saying, everybody's mouth, for real. You know what I mean? I didn't really care what nobody thought, because like I said, we spent our last trying to open up FlowerHouse, and a lot of people don't really know what we even experienced dealing with. I mean, the people over in Wilkinsburg or just Pittsburgh in general. Like, I mean, we had times where kids would come down to our space from our workshops, and you know, I mean, their mom was on drugs, and you know, I mean, it's 12 o'clock at night, and these kids is coming to FlowerHouse because they felt like they, you know what I'm saying, they could trust it and depend on us. So for me personally, I really didn't care, because I know the work still got to be done. And most of the people who was talking shit, they never came by FlowerHouse. So
he helped me a lot, because I internalized a lot of it. I took a lot of it personal, and still do. And he was just like, don't worry about it, you know. And it did help, but it still hurt. Like, yeah. So
yeah. So, you know, of course, I know y'all very well, and if anyone is not familiar with what took place, I mean, it was very, very public, really, really violent, you know, and particularly because I would see your daughter's name, like, to your point, like,
right,
see the baby's name in this daggone, in these like violent Facebook rants, you know, both y'all names, your child's name, FlowerHouse, like calling for you know, retaliation essentially. And to your point, Nay, which I think you made a really good point, like, folks, you don't know what people like are interpreting as justice, as protection. And so like, if they only have one side,
right,
what, you know, the circumstance, and of course they care about the people involved, if they are being called to protect, that can mean a lot of things, right? Like that can mean a lot of wildly violent things. And typically that's how it plays out, right? Like that's how cancel culture plays out. And also, which, like, I mean, you hit a lot of hit on a lot, because, you know, you also mentioned you all were only aware of 3 people. The 3 people, you only had names for 3 people who are participating in this because they made themselves known. Everybody else, and we know there's an everybody else, right? Because 3
everybody else,
kind of you know, no showdown. You know, there's an everybody else, and you have no idea who those folks are. You know, so you out here like, you know, fighting ghosts essentially. You know, like knowing that you're being attacked and having absolutely no idea where the attacks are coming from. In no way, and because you don't know where they're coming from, you also don't know how to to protect yourself, to address it, to confront it. You can't, you know, like, but that's the point. Like that is absolutely the point.
I'm sorry. Even now, like working in Pittsburgh, like, you know, we're artists, so people is what we have to engage with people. We don't know who care for us genuinely and who really just like, you know, and you do feel like it has changed the way that I interact with people. Like I think I used to be a very friendly, like open, like yay person, and I'm a lot less, you know, like, yeah. So
that's real. That's very real. I was talking to my homegirl about cancel culture essentially, but we were talking about relational violence, which is what all of this is, what cancel culture is. And she had said something that I thought was just a me thing, right? Like, because like me being, you know, targeted in similar ways as far as like the function, shout out to Marita, was she has mentioned that she doesn't RSVP anywhere. And I noticed that I didn't do it either, because I don't want y'all knowing where I'm going to be, because I already experienced that. You know what I mean? Like, so it definitely changes the way that you orient yourself around folk, right? Like, you got one time to make me feel like I don't trust you, and that's it. Like, you know, which very similarly, Nate, you know, hey, what's up? Like, we all family. It's all a good time. Like, we all together. Hey. But I'm, you know, and I'm still myself. But, you know, like now there are certain boundaries that I have, because I just don't know who to trust or how to trust y'all. You know, whether you were directly involved, participating, or you were passively not choosing not to do anything, right? And it's funny today, like as I was on my way here, I was listening to the radio, and there was a show, and they were talking about violence, and they were talking about relational violence, like cancel culture. They were talking about systemic violence, but what stuck out was they were talking about bystander. Which like they called it bystander silence. I would call it bystander violence, because like y'all are still like, you're actively choosing not to do anything, knowing what the outcome is going to be. And be that because like you just, Dindy's going off. It be that because, you know, like you don't know what to do, which, you know, that's understandable. But what I don't find to be understandable or justification is I'm not going to do anything because I don't want my bag jacked up, which is how a lot of folks will move, or I'm not going to do anything because what you're being accused of, I don't want to share that label because that's also a concern. Like, oh, well, like if I say anything, then they're going to say I protect, such and such. Like, so I don't want to get involved. Like, so like there's a bunch of reasons for why people choose not to do anything. The only excuse that I'm personally able to accept and feel is valid is I didn't know what to do, because that's real. But the rest is very self-serving. Or like, I'm kind of happy something's happening to you because like that means I can move a different way. Or maybe I was already, kind of jealous and I'm kind of happy to see you hurt, which are all very real things like that people do experience. Like I said, the only one that I find any validity in is I just didn't know what to do, which that does happen quite often, right? Like we don't really know what to do, but the rest of that stuff is also very real. So to that, Nick and Cent. So, and I'm sure y'all see, and I'm sure Nikki was like going clean off, like as Nay was, expressing herself because, like as we decided on the show, I said like, what's going on here looks very similar to what happened several years ago, right? Like, and having watched and lived through that, and watch how y'all had to live through that. It's like, oh, first of all, we need to rein this on in. But also like this needs to be spoken about like in a public way, not in that, that sort of hidden under the skin, under the surface sort of way that it's been happening. So Nick and Cent, can y'all tell us like what's been going on at BlaQK Collection?
Before I let Nikki tell the story, I just want to provoke a question to people is, what is culture? Like, who owns culture? Like, that's freaking arrogant for someone to say they can cancel FlowerHouse or they can cancel BlaQK when you're really just a steward of culture. Like, culture is ancestral. So who are you to say that you can cancel FlowerHouse or you can cancel BlaQK? And so I'll let Nikki go on and tell the story.
Nikki. Say, no, G. Nikki, you're muted if you're not aware. All right, so we might need you to take the sticks.
Okay. So anyways, that's just my question is, what actually, culture is ancestral. Like, it's an honor for me to carry on the legacy of ancestors to bring forth culture. So recently we kind of had a similar situation to where because we were allowing someone in our gallery who somebody else has a story against, someone has a story against, they're like, well, we're going to boycott you if you allow this person into your gallery. And we're trying to protect our artists. And my question became, I understand you're trying to protect your artists, but who are you to cancel out my gallery? Like, I don't know her story, but I don't know the whole story. And in order for culture, meaning ancestral, to carry on, we have to hear the whole side, the whole story. So Nick, I see Nikki's back on. Go ahead, Nikki, if you would like to tell more of the story. Nick?
There might still be
technical issues.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's basically how I felt, is that here you are, you're not sitting down and talking to me about a misunderstanding in terms of how this one female story is versus this male story. We all have a history. Why can't we heal from this? Culture is family. Culture is sitting down and reconciling issues. If you feel that this young man has a abusive situation, what about the healing from this young man? You're celebrating the fact that you are going to cancel this young man's financial, his financial, you're celebrating that? Like, how can we talk about the oppressor, but you're doing the same thing the oppressor's doing? You're canceling this young man's ability to generate an income rather than sitting down and saying, let me reconcile this issue. Let me hear this man's story. But you're telling me you're going to boycott my gallery because I'm allowing this young man into my gallery? Who are you to have that type of authority is my question that I always ask. Nick?
Yeah, I just think it's mad corny. I just think they're all bored and need something to do with their lives. I mean, as a Black woman, as a Black activist, I'm used to people trying to cancel me, but it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it feel any better. Nay and Darnell, I am so sorry for what happened to y'all, what you're still continuing to deal with, because it never feels good to have, it's not even bad publicity. It's just for your name to be associated with something that's not true. And when people take to social media before they can man or woman up and speak to you directly, it's just mad corny. And I just think the way, people go about this is as a cover for themselves. They don't really care to get to the root of the issue. They don't care to um, address the situation or the accused, because in our situation, it's not even about the accused. It's about tearing down two Black women. And that's mad violent. And especially to say that BlaQHouse doesn't protect Black people or protect Black LGBTQ or protect Black women. First of all, we're all three of those. Black, like, what the hell do you mean? I'm literally facing Fed time for protecting Black women. So what you're saying is untrue, without any type of merit. And I just think that it's very crazy that the so-called abuser in the situation, you've never once went to address him, but you went to Redfin or whatever it's called and other places to ensure that you would stop his money. That's cowardly. That's cowardly. I mean, you can't even approach the situation, but you want to go behind somebody's back and stop their income and then threaten to burn down my house. That's literally what I will burn down BlaQHouse collections. Really? That's a threat. That's a threat. And I don't take kindly to threats. I mean, especially when you have my phone number, especially when if you wanted a conversation, I would warrant you one. Especially when I've tried to have a conversation with you, when my partner has tried to have a conversation with you. I just think the way that people go about canceling people is mad violent. First of all, you can't break what you did not build, period. You can't break a Nikki Jo Dawson. You can't break a Cynthia Kenderson. You can't break a Naomi Chambers, a Darnell Chambers, a Shannon Hughes. You didn't build, so you can't break, period. So anybody who comes to attack me better come to me. If you do it about some other sneak bitch way, I don't have the respect for you to even allow you to think that you can cancel me. We are the culture. We provide the community. This isn't just BlaQHouse Collections isn't just a business. It isn't a business for us. We're business women, but we're not business women. This is our community work. I've been doing community work since before, I could even understand what community work was. We're going to continue to do for our community. BlaQHouse Collections is going to continue to do for our community, for our LGBT community, for our, cis brothers and sisters. I hear all of these people talking about, they're protecting Black women. But you can't really say you're protecting Black women when you're doing everything in your power to cancel Black women. And to be fair, what y'all doing in the streets? Y'all providing, food for the homeless? Are y'all opening your doors so Black entrepreneurs can come in and make money and get their name out there? Are you showcasing artists in the city who have never got a chance to showcase art? Have you helped to fire any cops lately? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm not saying that in a cocky way. I'm saying it to say our credentials and our community work speak for themselves. So before you go and try to say that you're going to cancel somebody, make sure that you have done something to uplift the community that you're so-called protecting. Because if you have not shown and proved that you are there for Black women, don't come for any Black women over here. I think that's cowardly. And like I said in the beginning, that's just some corny shit.
Word up. Nick. Oh, Dolly. Hold on. Still muted.
Okay.
No, I think a lot of it got to do with this internet shit. Like a lot of people think just because you post stuff online, they know you, or they, you know what I'm saying, they got some kind of idea how you are. But like, truth be told, that's why I had to delete Facebook. I'm like, I'm not even built for this online shit. Like I come from a crazy background. So like, even all the talk that was done online, like I ain't for all that shit. And then Pittsburgh's small, so I'm gonna probably run into whoever it is talking shit. You feel me? So yeah, I don't let that shit bother me. But like I said, I don't appreciate. Oh my goodness. This is all I care about, right? Come on,
Yeah.
Come on.
No, that's what I was most afraid of, him getting riled up. That's another thing. Like, people are willing to keep things on social media where it's like, I had to make sure D wasn't going out, if he thought we were unsafe, I was scared he was going to do, so there was different, there was layers to all of it, like Nikki Joe instance. Yeah.
I think people hide behind social media because they're cowards, because that's basically what happened to me. Is somebody took my conversation with them and they edited it, and they only took what they wanted people to see so that they can feel like they were the victim. And to me, that was being a coward, because you could easily have come and sat down with me. You could easily, I'm the type of person I would easily said, whoa, I'm wrong. I just learned something about myself. But instead you were a coward. You edited my conversation with you and then all of a sudden cancel me, and then went to another higher realm that said they can cancel us. And I'm like, you don't cancel us because you're not in control of us. Something higher is in control of us. So Naomi, like I said, I know of you from other people. I know of your husband, and I honor you guys, and nobody's canceled you and nobody's going to cancel. So I look forward for all of us to collaborate and do something way higher than what all of these wannabes want to cancel of our culture, because they can't cancel culture because it's ancestral, it's God, and it's way higher than them.
All right, y'all. So yeah. So for one, I mean, like, I don't even think it's necessary to take shots at each other. Like or even the folks who have been offensive, right? Like, and there's certainly a lot of offense between these two spaces. It doesn't feel necessary. And I say that because watching how conflict is carried out, period. Like, we don't, like, people naturally just don't do conflict well at all, like, and so watching what's going on with Nick and Cent, again, like, this happened to Nay and Dolly several years ago. And that's the way that people interpret, justice and protection and such and such, like, that's what, folks know, especially particularly in the artist community. Like, this is how you protect your folks. Like, you go and you cut off people's business and money and you cancel them. Not, like, you go and confront them. Not, like, we go figure out what happened. Because to Cynthia's point, we don't actually know what between the two people involved. Like, we have no idea because we're not neither of them. Like, And so there's not really, there's no reason to try to like figure it out. Like, okay, well, this is why, like, and because they responded this way and because they did this, this makes we don't know. Like, we have absolutely no idea. And so since we don't know, and I say we as in Nick and Cent, but also the folks who are trying to protect them, y'all don't know either. Like, y'all don't know. Don't nobody know. I see you, Nick. And so because there wasn't no, like an intention to, first of all, like, confront the person who, is accused of harm, which they very well could have done, like, and sometimes like we can do harm and not realize that it's harmful, and particularly in the ways that it's being called. Like, I would not be surprised if this person doesn't even realize that what they have done is harmful in some ways. But regardless, anyway, I went down a rabbit hole. But regardless, it is because there's no real way to handle conflict in a healthy way that doesn't just like spur and spear up violence. Inherently, like the way that we protect each other is inherently violent, right? Like, and I'm thinking about, as Nick and Nay and Cynthia, actually, as y'all were talking, I'm thinking about what that does for community, right? Which is always where my mind is. It's like, all right, so y'all beefing with these people. And so because you're beefing with these people, or you don't like something they did, now you're going to like boycott and have them cut off from community. What does that do for the community, right? Like, I always think about what happened with Wilkinsburg when they lost that resource. There's no other space that you can just walk into at all types of, hours of the day and night and receive not only like resources, but love and support and community. Like, that doesn't exist in Wilkinsburg. It doesn't exist anywhere to my knowledge. And thinking about BlaQHouse, like BlaQHouse literally holds a pop-up every Saturday for Black businesses that don't have the storefront or the visibility or whatever, or just Black business period, to be able to, sell their wares, to be more visible, to commune with each other. What happens when that goes away? Where does it go after that? It goes nowhere. Like, so like, this really violent way that we've learned how to address conflict, does more harm than good. Even like there, first of all, it's not going to remedy the issue in the first place, right? Because we're not even talking about the people who cause harm. Not in either case. We're not talking about either the people who actually cause harm. So the harm is still there. The feelings of victimization is still there. The trauma that the person or people involved, like, they are still feeling that. And you don't feel safe, like, harming these other tertiary people. Like, you don't feel safe. So like, you didn't gain anything, and you all didn't gain anything, and the community lost more, like more than anything, But Nay, I saw you and Nick.
Nick was first.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I was having some technical difficulties when Cent was asking me to tell y'all what went down and what not. Essentially, long story short, somebody had reached out to me about this artist and was like, he's a dope artist. I think he would be, great for, your BlaQHouse, this, that, and the third, or whatever. And it was while we were doing artist submissions and interviews, right? So looked over his work, thought he was hella dope, the whole nine. Had been in conversations with him for 2 weeks before the accuser came along. When she spoke with me, she right away stated that she was interested, and she was excited, and we scheduled an interview so she could come down and I could look at her work and see how it fit in with the theme, blah blah blah. She then hits me up like a week later to say, I heard this person is in there, he's a stalker and he's homophobic, I don't feel safe, this, that, and the third. So me as a Black woman, what do? Trust Black women, right? Protect Black women. But my mistake in doing so is that I didn't do my due diligence with the brother. I just automatically excluded him from the exhibition because I'm like, this woman told me this, blah, blah, blah. My due diligence where I made a mistake is the fact that I'm a Black woman and I have nothing but brothers. And if somebody were to make an accusation about one of my brothers, and I know it not to be true, or even if I don't know it to be true, it's my due diligence, my duty as a Black woman and as their sister to approach them about that. And I never gave him that opportunity. I just automatically took the word of, this woman who I didn't know, you know, and I don't know him, I don't know her. I'm interviewing artists, right? So I don't know either one of them, but I just took her word because we're always taught to protect Black women, you know, and it's like I'm going to say this, in protecting Black women, there has to be trusting your Black self. I didn't trust my intuition, which is saying, not that she's lying or anything. I don't know if there's any validity to it or not. That's not the issue. That was never the issue. I didn't trust myself enough to say, go ahead and speak with this brother and let him know why he's not going to be in this exhibition for safety reasons. We never had that conversation. So when the time came for the end of the exhibition, everybody's going to be getting back their artwork, this, that, and the third, you know, this brother reached out to me again, just wanted a spot in the expo, 4 hours to sell his work. Now, mind you, the artist who made the accusations, her artwork has been up for 6 months at our gallery. Never once has she ever come by. She doesn't reach out. You know, I tag her and post about the gallery, this, that. She doesn't come through. I mean, that's her prerogative. She doesn't have to, because her artwork is there. She doesn't have to come through at all. But she sees the flyer with his name on it, and that's how all of this started. How could you allow him in there? I told you what he was. I told you he was homophobic. You did. You told me all of that. And that's some personal-ish. And what you have to understand is your personal affairs should never dictate how a business is conducted. You can't run my shit because of something that happened. I already excluded him from the exhibition because you felt unsafe. So for you to further dictate how I move with my community work and my business, that is violent as hell. To tell somebody you can't run business this way because I told you so and so about him, and I didn't fact check, I didn't do due diligence on this brother, I didn't do anything. So I felt like that was very violent in itself, to suggest that I don't protect Black women when I purposely kept them out of the art house, when I purposely, you know, refused to not have them in the same space as you. You've never been there since your artwork went up and it came down. So for you to tell 2 Black women how to conduct business in their Black house, and then send me a message and block me before I could even respond, but go into Black art circles to tear down 2 Black women for not protecting a Black woman, allegedly, that was violent in itself. Me not doing my due diligence to speak to the brother when the accusation was made, that was violent. I own that. That was violent of me to just automatically assume this must be true. And again, I'm not saying that there isn't any truth to it. I don't know him still. I don't know her. I don't know what happened. You know, I can't say that she's lying. I can't say she's telling the truth either. But what I can say is that I chose to protect her before doing what I knew I should do as a Black woman, not as a business owner. And that was to address that brother. So I'm saying all of this to say, when you talk about canceling somebody, you should look at what the people who you are trying to cancel have already done and are looking to do to keep you protected. You're just going off a whim, and that's violent as hell. You didn't even give the opportunity for a discussion. You didn't give the opportunity, you know, for understanding. You just decided my feelings are hurt because they didn't listen to me. And last I checked, me and Cynthia was co-owners here. You just going to decide that you're just going to tell us how to run our business, but you don't want to give us a conversation. It's not even about the brother anymore. It was never about the brother. It's how are you? You're going to listen to what we said, or we're going to cancel you. Try it. Try it. Because as I said before, this is our community work, and you can't cancel community. And unless you're doing the worker community, you can't come for community. And I feel so bad that y'all had to endure that. I heard of FlowerHouse. I actually never heard of this canceling of y'all. I honestly never heard until, we started to talk about doing the show. I never heard of your unfortunate story and circumstances. And that really pisses me off that happened to you. Like, it really, really pisses me off that they did that to y'all. I am so sorry, especially raising children and having couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. But I did want to ask, because I heard you say, did you say you're both artists? You're both artists? Is that your work behind you on the walls?
That's an artist from Cleveland, Ohio, named Dakaria Kill. He was a resident artist at FlowerHouse.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was one of the many.
So y'all both paint?
Yeah, both of us painters.
I think he's so done
in the circus,
artwork to look at, you know.
Oh, anytime. I'm working on some work now, so hopefully we'll get to y'all something.
I admire all the work that y'all did with FlowerHouse as a community center, allowing for those kids to be able to feel safe enough to come. And that's what I mean. They may have stopped your business, honey, but they did not stop you. At the beginning and end of each day, you wake up a Black mother, a Black woman. Your resilience is in your DNA. That business, okay, but you're still here, and you still have something to offer to the world. You still have something to offer to the world. You have something to offer to your children. You have something to offer to the community. And I hate that you still have to deal with that pain, but I'm telling you, sis, the healing is the come up. Please pay attention to your healing. I have people talking about us in those circles who were supposed to be cool with us, who were supposed to be comrades, who were supposed to be doing community work with us, who tore us down like dogs. You can't not, and I hate to say it, I say it all the time, but not all skin folk is kinfolk, right? We've got Negropeans in our midst. And like you said, it's always the people who aren't doing the work. So as long as you remember who you are and who you're fighting for, your husband, your babies, your Black self, the community work will always be in you. Shoot, you could do FlowerHouse Collective Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. You know, it's dependent upon you. That, like, when people try to cancel you, you know, it's usually because you're doing something that they can't. And I hate to say it like that. And I know Shannon said don't take shots, but if I'm not going to be Russian roulette. I'm not going to allow my partner to be Russian roulette. I'm not going to allow any Black woman who is doing the work of community be attacked. It's just not fair. So I hope y'all are like really like just trying to stay as positive as possible and letting that come up of healing come through. Because like I said, they've been trying to cancel me forever. The city's been trying to cancel me. The fucking, you know, so it's like, you know, you get used to it, but it doesn't make it easier. I understand that pain. But you just got to know that the work that you do, the work that you provide is necessary and that the community needs you. Come back swinging and we'll support you.
Thank you, Nikki. That means a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
That means a lot. Like I want to say there was a group of people. There were a group of people that definitely stepped up and showed us love and support during that time. And these people I will never, ever, ever forget. Shannon, Chris Norman, Erica Turner, Kensel and Boone. They were there for us. They helped talk and initiate something with the young ladies in the beginning to get them to know, like, because at first they weren't really agreeing to speak with me, you know, when I first reached out. And so Sister I, you know, One Hood, Sister Celeste, there were so many people that definitely knew us and didn't let things come in between or weren't afraid to be associated with us. Because that's a fear of a lot of people.
Right.
And like when you're reading all these things, all these comments, and you're seeing all these people like it, and it's just so it's a head trip. It's a head trip. You're like, wait, I was just at your house for a cookout. You like it? Like it's a weird situation. Okay.
I just want to say that's why I appreciate what you said, Nikki Joe. Like, regardless, you can't cancel the work we doing. You can try to cancel our space, you can try to cancel us, whatever, but you cannot cancel the work. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna speak for itself. And then a lot of it too. We don't do white organizations the same way we do Black organizations. You know what I mean? Like we quit to cut each other off. You know what I'm saying? But we support these white people like it's nothing. So Yeah, that's all I want to say. I gotta make sure these.
And we have to definitely continue to support Black spaces. So I will be hopefully talking with y'all so I can, anything y'all need, be there for y'all. So yeah. Shout out to all the existing Black art spaces, even if it's just inside of ourselves, us being creators. But we need space.
We absolutely do. We need to be supporting, like, we really need to be supporting each other. What Darnell just said, you know what I mean? And that's a very valid point. When it comes to these white organizations or these white companies messing somebody over, you know what I mean? They'll boycott maybe for a week and then go right back to spending their money with them. But for us, we got to be canceled, excommunicated, the Salem witch hunt, put on a stick. And why do we eat our own like that? Because that's the conditioning that we've been taught. So we know what it looks like. We know what it looks like. But it's sad that, like, cancel and culture don't even go together. It doesn't even make sense. You can't cancel culture. I mean, unless it's white culture, because what is that?
Balance.
What? No, but really, what is white culture? But every other culture is adaptation and appropriation. Exactly. So that's the only thing that can really be canceled, because it's not authentic.
True indeed.
Because you're Black, we are the essence of authenticity. You can't cancel us. The work will always supersede the mission of cancellation. Every time.
I'm thinking about Nick. Earlier when you were talking, I was thinking about, you said young lady had the issues, whatever, and then came and was basically trying to dictate how you were going to engage with other artists. And that makes me think about, like, how when violence does exist in our communities, right? How do we respond to it, right? Because at the end of the day, like, this young woman feels very hurt by him. And, like, we don't know what transpired, but she is hurt, right? Like, and there's real trauma there. Like, that's a very real thing that we should take seriously. But what does it look like for us to protect each other, when there is violence amongst each other, right? Like, because I can also see, like, what does that feel like if you've been violated? And matter of fact, it's not even a matter of thinking, like I've experienced it, right? Like, my ex still engages in the artist community and whatnot. He's violent as fuck, like super violent. But at no point did I ever want, dude to be canceled. Because, like, again, like, when you start fracturing community, that's not going to help any of us. But I also recognize that I needed to be protected, and nobody protected me. So, like, I understand, like, why sis is like, no, like, I don't want to see him, like, because, like, viscerally, like, first of all, if she's not safe, she's not safe. Like, so of course you would want to be safe, right? And then viscerally, when you see someone who has caused you, like, unimaginable harm, like, that in and of itself is really, really, it hurts and it's violent in and of itself. But it's like, well, what does that look like, right? How does that translate into community? So how are we protecting each other, like, when those circumstances arise, right? Because it's not just her and him. It's not just dude that was engaged with y'all space, Nay and Darlene. Like, this is a constant thing. There are so many people who have done irreparable harm in some manner, but have been harmful, right? Like, and quiet as it's kept, we're all capable of harm, and we're always going to harm each other, because that's just what happens. Like, and that's okay. Like, that is okay, because oftentimes, like, we don't even realize that we're hurting each other, but we are doing it. But it's like it's the way that we deal with harm and conflict that tends to be fucked up, right? Like, that tends to be the thing that unravels, right? So, like, in both of these circumstances, like, there were, young women who were harmed, and then the response to even attempt to protect them was harmful, right? Like, was super violent. And now there's this radiation of violence. Like, Nay, how long ago was that?
It was 2 years ago. It happened, but the thing that happened to the young lady, I think honestly would have been closer to even 3 years ago, because it took her a moment to come to grasp with everything and to be strong enough to speak on it. And I feel like a lot of some of the pain too is that after enduring what I was going through, I never offered her anything in terms of like I don't know her. I never knew her. But I do at times when it's quiet, I wonder how she's doing. You know, like I don't know if she ever got anything from that. Like, but to see it happen big in front of her, like I don't know. Like there's
If I could, as okay, so I feel like as Black women, like there has never been a Black woman in history who has not been intruded upon or disrespected or in some way violated, right? But like I always try to put myself in that sister's shoes, or delve from my own incidents. You know what I mean? I feel like when we are attacked or intruded upon or violated, you're looking for protection everywhere. And I think that while their intention may not be, and may, but I think most of the time it's probably not even intentional to harm other Black women, but they can't see past their own pain because, it's very raw. How many of us have been violated or abused or, I mean, we're fucking Black women in America. Like, that type of sense of no protection, never going to get justice. It's kind of like when you get a little bit of momentum, a little bit of people who decide that they're going to stand behind you, you want to slay every dragon that's not in agreement with you, whether you're hurting another Black woman who doesn't deserve it or not. So I can kind of understand from this particular woman's point of view why she lashed out at us. I can understand that. What I don't agree with is the manner in which you continue to deal out that pain, because it's not directed at the person who caused it. There are so many things you can do. And then, it's unfortunate the way the justice system works, you can't always, you don't ever get it through there, right? So you think that your only recourse is to go through the community, but you don't realize that you're further sowing seeds of division. You're further dividing the community. And when it's a personal issue, and I say personal because, in the sense that it personally happened to you, or when it's something like that, none of us can really say of which way to handle it. So in a way, I have love for the girl. I have compassion for the girl. I want the girl to heal and get help. I just don't respect the way the girl went about it, because you're slaying too many people, hurting too many people who had nothing to do with it and only wanted to help you. But then at the end of the day, like I said, I can understand. You want to slay every fucking dragon when you've been hurt. I get that. I personally get that, So, Shannon, I can't even answer that question. How do we deal? How do you really don't know what to do when you're in this position?
Yeah. And I think, but to that point, right? Like, the way that this has been handled with the folks against BlaQHouse Collections was absolutely wrong. But it was also wrong when it happened to FlowerHouse Collective. And I think, and again, going back to my earlier point, we don't really have a knowingness of how to deal with conflict, especially violence, right? Like, we want to protect each other, but what does that actually look like? Just like, we talk about boundaries, like people we can use the words like my boundaries, but how do you actually establish them? Like, most folks don't actually know how to do that work, right? Like, we talk about accountability. It sounds good, but most folks don't actually know how to do that work. And quiet as this accountability is not easy. Like, that is so hard. And the hardest part about it is that it requires you to have empathy for the people who have harmed you, even if they're not ready to have empathy for you, so even if you are holding that this person has harmed me, it like accountability requires you to see them as a person, because you need to understand where that behavior, that action, that whatever came from. And that's not easy. Like, it's not. So I know, like, accountability is the buzzword and whoop, whoop, whoop. But really what people are saying is justice. And even beyond that, it's really like, you hit me and now I want to hurt you, like, because you need to feel me. And that's quite natural, right? Like, that's a normal response to being harmed, right? Is reestablishing like that safety and that power balance. But what the problem is, again, like, there's harm that constantly happens in our community, constantly happens in our community. But what does it look like for us to protect each other, right? So young lady was hurt. by this person, like, you know, like feeling unsafe, like all of these things. And now she's reacting off of it. And then she's reacting, not only is she reacting in a way that is, common, but it's a practice that happens here. Okay, like, well, you hurt this person. We're consenting to help protect them. Therefore, we're going to do these things that turns out is actually really, really violent towards all of us, you know, but that's how folks know how to deal with conflict, which is terribly, like, you know. And I'm also thinking about, Nick, you had said something else, and it was in my head. Oh, I'm sorry, Dolly. Hold on. Go ahead.
I think a lot of times people fail to realize too that these kind of spaces should be used to actually have these conversations in the hill. You know what I mean? So when people tend to damage these kind of spaces, they really making it hard for us to really be able to have these kind of conversations. You know what I mean? Because you know, Shannon, FlowerHouse was used to have these kind of conversations. You feel me? But yeah, that's all.
Most definitely, FlowerHouse was the hub, like, you know, was the home front. And, you know, to an earlier point, I think several of y'all said, like, we don't treat white spaces this way. Like, we don't implode white spaces. But also, I think there's something to be said about, like, we don't have direct relationships with white spaces either. And so, like, we don't hold hurt the way that we do with white spaces, you know, that we do with our own. So, like, you know, there's a bit of both of that. But Nate, I'm wondering, so like it's been 2.5 years, and like, you know, and there's still healing that is happening, you know. I'm wondering, do you have language? Do you know what would further your healing as far as like the community goes, right? Like, because this is it's such an involved type of violence, right? Like it's coming directly from community. What would further your healing from the community?
I guess I was, you know, I told you I was afraid to do this. I will say this already has helped me a great deal, because you're right. When this happens to people, they don't normally get a chance. I'm very grateful to the 2 people who sat down with me. They didn't have to do that. I'm grateful that, you know, we were able to have that. Like, I did get to think on my responsibility, my play in it and everything. Like I was given that space to pull out of me, you know, what I could have done differently, you know. They were able to hear and give me room to evolve, you know. And I feel like I've given them that same space, you know. And like I said, I think the only thing is that being that I don't know the extent to which, you know, my name has been sullied. And I guess what I have to do is get back to the point where it doesn't, I have to know that it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know if there's anything that the community itself can do. I think it's me just being, support Black business. Let me continue to see the community get behind BlaQHouse.
Right.
That will show me in real time that we've learned a lesson, you know. Because they're open and let's thrive. Like, I would like to see Black spaces thrive, you know. I would like to see this conversation continue on a degree, but we've been talking about cancel culture, and there's still, like, we just doubled back, and we still have to think about the, you know, the people that were initially hurt. Right. So if we could come up with a process that members of the community are going to try to engage with each other, you know, when someone comes up and says, hey, look, I was hurt this way, you know, what can we do? What's a mode? Because I remember one of the back and forths I was having with people, and I was like, yes, this was brought to my attention, but what do you expect me to do about it? FlowerHouse likes to act like we're everything in the world, but at the core, we were an arts education space. Yes, we held a lot of spaces because we were all about Black survivalism, and that encompasses everything. But again, our specialty was Black art. I mean, was arts education and art, you know. So when they came to me, it was like, I like, this is a real thing. You know, I brought it to the people, you know, my husband and the person, and like, you know, we had a conversation, and we did tell this person, like, you can't come here until you figure this out. Like, we're not saying this is true. We don't know the truth, but you know, even now, but we told this person, you know, like, you can't come here until, you know, you figure this out. You know, if this is the truth, then, you know, let it be known, like, protect yourself. And so, like, when everything happened, I would just want to say, it all happened for a reason. And so, like, I can't expect the community to do anything but show that it's evolved, you know, and I'm going to continue to do my self-work. I mess up all the time. I mess up every day, even with my children. I keep saying, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And then I cut up and be like, they do something and I got to, you know, get myself back together. So for me, it's just, I got my self-work to do. And I would like to see the community come behind people that are putting themselves on the line every day and celebrate itself, celebrate the people that's working, celebrate not just the trendy people that we want to celebrate that, you know, got a prize last week from a national, you know, like, let's celebrate them. But then let's also remember that there are so many people out here that are like really humping it and really like sacrificing a lot, and they do deserve like love and, you know, to know that people care about them being here and existing in this world. So yeah, I would just say I want to see us pull behind each other, you know.
I just want to say that as much as I believe in healing and so forth, I also think that violence can be healing. Truth be told, I'm a boxer, so for me, you know what I mean, like, that was the way that I, you know what I'm saying, I was able to heal through, you know what I mean. So I just don't want people to get it twisted. Like, violence can be very healing, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that's the route that we should, you know what I'm saying, always take. But at the same time, yeah, that shit healing. You know what I'm saying? And
how do you make violence healing? How
for like, even so,
like boxing
like there's a I mean, this might be a little bit off topic, but even getting, you know what I'm saying, young people together who got issues and putting them in a ring and giving them some gloves. You gain respect for each other afterwards. You understand? So like, that's just how I look at life. You're not gonna disrespect me continuously and think that this is gonna be okay, because yeah, it get violent. So, and that's no disrespect to nobody, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, like, so, you know, we talk about violence quite often, but violence has a place just like everything else does. Exactly. The problem is when, like, you know, using violence to avoid confrontation or conflict, or using violence to exploit or harm, like, you know, that's where it's like, you know, it's being misused. So violence is a part of community just like anything else, like, you know, and if it comes to that point, then that's just what it is. I had mentioned, this was a few weeks back, I think it was, or it might have been on Facebook, but I was talking about retaliatory violence. Like, you know, like, oftentimes people are retaliating, you know, which is why it's important that, you know, when there's harm that happens in our community, it really does, you know, like, benefit us. It would behoove any of us to try to help ameliorate the violence, to address the harm. Because if you're leaving people responsible for reestablishing their own safety, you might not like the way that they decide to reestablish your safety. You know what I mean? Like, what, 5 years ago now, in 2016, my baby brother was stabbed by some dustball, stabbed in his neck. You know, like, it's a miracle that he survived it. He's good now, but, like, you know, first of all, someone tried to kill my brother. You know, like, which throws everything up, right? Like, tried to take this baby's life, who's he's not a person that would even be in a circumstance like that. It shakes our familial safety, because it's like, oh, y'all think y'all can do whatever to us, right? And trying to rely on the system to do its job is like, right? Like, so, like, quite frankly, we were seconds away from doing a lot of damage, you know, like, I totally understand retaliatory violence. It's like, y'all, like, we as a community, we as a people, we as a system failed to protect people who have been harmed. And therefore, like, their response was to protect themselves. You cannot be mad about that. You know, like, you just cannot be mad about that, which is why I keep drawing back to, like, what can we do as a community? And what I do like, now you said it, and also the folks who are involved in the circumstance with FlowerHouse, and I know all of y'all, like I know them as well, like love them as well. But the conversation was like, what do we do? Because we actually don't know. Like, this is just the way we know how to deal with it. What do we do, right? Like, and that's a really important conversation that this needs to grow into. It's like, how do we actually deal with conflict and violence, right? Like, that doesn't lead to more violence and the separation of Black community, because like there is no real way to do it. So it's either like we do this really, really fucked up thing that we know how to do, or we do something else, like, or we do nothing. And it's usually one of those things, and all of those are bad options. Nick, I saw your hand.
Yeah, no. I think the problem is with our community is that we confuse accountability and justice. Like we didn't get justice for George Floyd. Derek Chauvin was just held accountable. We won't know if it's real justice until he's under the jail for years on end, right? We didn't get justice. That wasn't a win. He was just held accountable. And I think that in our community, we think justice is multiplying accountability by 1,000 and scorching you off the map. And that's justice. But like, Dolly said, that nobody does that to the white community. It just doesn't happen. So I feel like until we can actually, as a community, decide how to hold somebody accountable in a position, and by that I mean the accused, not anybody who is in concert or whatever, you know what I mean, passing an acquaintance. Like, you can't shoot everybody except for the target at hand, except for the accused. You can't just take people off. Until we can decide how we are going to rectify these violent situations, you can't keep inflicting violence on everybody in that path. So until then, we need to cancel culture, because this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that you just want to wipe out everybody who has an association, you know what I mean, with somebody who you have a real problem with. You want to hold that person accountable? Cool, by all means, do it. But you don't realize that you're further inflicting violence by trying to slay everybody in that person's path. That's not accountability. That's not justice. You can't call it accountability or justice if you're dividing the community. You can't call it accountability or justice if you're, taking food out of a Black child's mouth. You can't call it accountability or justice if you are throwing somebody's name through the dirt like they're fucking running for mayor or something. Like, you just can't do that to people and think that you're in the right. You're in the wrong. If anything, that type of violence should be canceled in our culture. I don't even know what else to say about this, honestly, because I don't know. I don't really have an answer for how to deal with that, because I myself have been a victim of some abuses. You know what I mean? And I didn't get justice for it. I wasn't even able to hold the person accountable. But what I did know is that, if I let the people who mattered to me, my family, know the pain I was dealing with, then it was easier for me to heal, easier to get through, to navigate that pain. I became stronger as I healed. That was the come up for me. You know what I mean? And knowing at the end of the day, anybody who abuses me or come against me, you know what I mean? Knowing that how I'm protected. I'm not talking about by people. I'm talking about the ancestors. Knowing what I'm put here to do. Like Cynthia likes to say all the time, like, please don't come for me, because the way I'm protected, you won't win. Like, the way God got me, you won't win. The way my ancestors, but we don't all have that strength and conviction of feeling protected when we're attacked by somebody who was unprotected. So it's hard to say what that structure looks like for our community. But the one thing I can say crystal clear is that violently attacking other people who have not harmed you is more violent than you think. You can't cancel people like that. It's just wrong. It's corny. It's really corny. Do better. I'm done.
Yeah, a couple things. Well, first, Nick, I think we have a different definition of justice and accountability. You might have walked away when I was mentioning.
Okay.
And just noting, because as I think about, like, Derek Chauvin going to jail, because he was the sacrificial lamb, like I wouldn't call that accountability at all. Like accountability is a process, like it's a whole process, and quite frankly, it's a walk. Like it's collaborative, like with both the community, with the people involved, you know. And so like him going to jail, like accountability means you have to acknowledge how you messed up, like, you know, and have language to it, give direct language to it. Like there's reparations involved. Like there's reconciliation that's at the very, very end of it. Like, you know, there's a whole process, and there's also an establishment of like, well, how is this not going to happen again? You know what I mean? So like, there's so much involved in accountability. For me, the way that I, you know, give language and understand it, and justice to me is very punitive. It's like, all right, eye for an eye, you hit, like, all right, you get hit, like, or whatever the you know, the equivalency is. And so I just wanted to name that, just because like we both mentioned two kind of different definitions, and I didn't want people to get confused. That's all good. You are on mute and I cannot.
My bad. No, you're absolutely right. I didn't mean it in the aspect of self-accountability, because he'll probably never do that, right? I just meant by like the community, well, not even the community, by the system that they constructed, he was held accountable. But he'll never be, you know, accountable to self. There won't be any reparations, I don't think, even for, you know, the family, or any acknowledgement that he was wrong. He still was in disbelief that he was even convicted. So yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying as far as accountability. I didn't mean it in that context. I just meant it like, you know, the system said, okay, you're accountable as far as you did this shit, and we have to like convict you of it. But yeah, no, I completely understand, and thank you for, you know, and you know, cleaning that up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But you know, language matters, so
Yes.
make sure.
Yes.
And the other thing though that was in my mind is that, like, you know, I personally don't think that it would be very difficult, and you know, to figure out how do we recalibrate how we address conflict and harm and violence, right? Like we do it all of the time, right? You know, we just do it in smaller ways. And when it's people that we care about, like we act totally different than people we don't care about, we don't know, like, you know, that's a whole different animal. So like being able, first of all, to amplify, like, how do you care for somebody? Like, how do you engage in conflict and conflict resolution with people that you care about? Like, use that as a foundation. First of all, like, maybe I should just treat people like that. Like, you know, if I wouldn't want my people treated that way, like, why would I treat somebody else that way because they've done harm? And then the other one, like, and I know y'all sick of me saying it, but you know, hello, mediator, pretty good at it. Hi. Lean on folks who do this, right? Like, do this for real. And so like the things y'all will always hear me say is we do not share language naturally. We do not, none of us. Our language is built off of our experiences. So I could say something and then you can hear something totally different. And then all of a sudden we're going down two different paths of conversation, which could very easily, and what happens all of the time is that like now Nay could be feeling absolutely offended, you know, like by what I'm saying, because like her understanding of something I said way back when, like set this way for her. And then she went in this direction, and don't let that be tied to something that she finds traumatic, because now it's really like, oh, now I don't trust Shan. Now I need to defend myself. Like, and without her even realizing that's what's going on, and without me even realizing there's anything wrong. That happens so often, right? Like, and so like being able to be in it, like, it's always great to like, you know, like y'all just need to talk or whatever, like, you know, but it's not easy to have a conversation with somebody that you don't share language with. And the further away you are in community, like the less likely it is that you'll actually be able to hear each other. So having, you know, a third party trained mediator to help, like, you know, navigate what's being said and what's being heard is so super important. And understanding that, like, you know, when there is conflict, like, so with both, like the circumstance with BlaQHouse and FlowerHouse, like the majority of folks, they either don't know what's going on. So, you know, like they're just taking in whatever information is going on. But the people who are directly involved in the cancel culture or whatever, like they feel like they're doing the Lord's work, right? Like they feel justified because they feel like they're protecting someone, you know, like, and you all are feeling justified because like, I ain't had nothing to do with it. Like, you know, like, and we're protecting our, you know, like our community, our culture, and our business, you know? And so like everybody involved is ultimately trying to protect themselves and the people that they care about. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. like I said earlier, like we're always going to hurt each other. Like that's just what life is. Like we're always going to crash up against each other because that's just what life is. That's not the problem. The problem is how we deal with it after the fact, right? And so like that crashing up against, especially when you don't have the proper space, the safe space to deal with it, which we don't have, right? And what kills me is like these young women who are involved, rather than the community coming in and saying like, okay, like we're going to work through this, like, and work through this as a community. Nay, I'm thinking about, you said you think about the young lady involved and y'all don't actually share community and you'd like to reach out, like, and see how she's doing. Like, it makes me think about like how beautiful our community could have been, because it would have grown. It could have grown at that point, right? Like you could have built a relationship at that point and been stronger off of it. And that doesn't include now all of a sudden the young men who are involved being ostracized, because that's not going to help us either. like, and the, you know, with the recourse and the decisions that were made, like, okay, well, with FlowerHouse, all right, we're going to block all his business, similar to what's going on, what happened to you all. Like, oh, like he's going to lose, he lost his job and all of these things were happening. We're going to beat him up, like going to beat his ass, like, and that happened too. But what didn't happen was any sort of changed behavior. Because again, like accountability takes first you to lean into like what's going on, you know, like even when a person who has caused offense isn't even ready to acknowledge it yet, like it takes so much to be able to sit and be like, okay, this is not okay. This isn't normal. Like whatever else, like what's going on with you? Are you okay? Where did this decision come from? Like that's a really, really difficult thing to do. And that never happened for dude. And so he continued to do the same stuff. Like he was still in the same type time, you know, like, so y'all did whatever, but it didn't change anything. It didn't make nobody safer. And I'm sure it did nothing for the young women involved. Like, I'm absolutely sure of that. So anyway, so I know I've been talking a lot, but y'all know how I feel about conflict in community and such. But, you know, all that to say is I don't think that we're so far off from being able to, you know, create like, you know, community systems, community agreements, like, you know, code of conduct, like how we deal with each other when there is harm in the community. Like, I think we already have a lot of systems to do that, and we have resources to make that happen. I definitely don't think that folks who are untrained to mediate, because when you're not trained, you miss a lot of nuance, and then tick, tick, boom, and shit blows up. But also, like, we practice compassion with each other all of the time. Lean into that. Like, you know how you want your people to be treated. Nick, you had said you got all brothers, and you know what it feels like for, you know, someone to accuse them. That happens all the time. That's not just white women. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just white women that do it. Like, women are women, people are people, and Black women can fuck up too. Like, we do all of the time. And so it's really important that we don't jump off the limb like, oh, well, it was a Black woman, so let me just go ahead and believe her. Like, you know, like that's not healthy either, you know? Nick, you have your...
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to say this earlier. I think when it comes down to protecting Black women, like in like these instances where, you know, a sister, you know, states that, you know, she's been abused by some man or whatever. I think men need to stay out of it as far as attacking Black women. Like, and I'm saying this from like, I feel like men should be men. If you want to protect that Black woman and you know we're not going to get no justice through them, go beat his ass then. Why are you going after other Black women? Use your hands. I'm old school. And I'm country. And my grandma used to tell me all the time when they were coming up, if there was somebody in the neighborhood who was doing some, you know, selling drugs to kids or doing something wrong, they would town hall and decide together as a people, how are we going to get this abuser out of here? And then they do it. They run them out by shotgun if they need be. But for Black men to sit up here and say, I'm protecting Black women by tearing down other Black women, that's some punk shit. Go beat the dude's ass in. If you really think that he's an issue and an abuser and he's harmful and toxic to Black women, then prove it. Really protect that Black woman. Don't come for other Black women. That's causing cattiness and divisiveness between Black women. I can't respect a Black man who calls himself a Black man or a king or a god, and the first thing you do is tear down your creator. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for a Black woman. Don't do that. It's crazy. It's senseless. And I know Shannon's just like, damn it, Nikki, you are advocating violence, but this is the good type of violence that brother was speaking about.
I know. I know there's like this thought that I'm like, you know, like, oh, let's all get along, but you know, like, no, healthy discourse is healthy discourse.
Healthy discourse. I just don't think Black men should be trying to tear down and you know, rip apart Black women. You're furthering the divide. You're not helping. Nowhere does that help. Never does it help. It's just like you and I, Shannon, we got brothers. You know what I mean? All we got is brothers. If a girl comes after your brother with an accusation and your brother's wrong, you're gonna whoop your brother's ass. And if the girl is wrong, you're gonna whoop her ass. You ain't gonna allow him to whoop her ass. You ain't gonna allow no other man to put it. So you're gonna go right after that woman and whoop her ass. And it should be the same way. Old school street justice. You ain't gotta cancel a culture. You ain't gotta stop the movement. We all still trying to get to the same place, the same, goal of getting up out of this oppression. You know what I mean? But if you ain't going to do it to the white man because you think the white man's ice is colder, don't come for the sisters. Go and show and prove that you really want to protect this sister. If this dude has all this stuff, he should have been had his ass whooped. He shouldn't have even been in this city. And I'm not giving him a pass because I don't know if he did it or not. But I'm saying, black men have to handle these situations delicately when you're talking about protecting black women. If you're going to protect black women, protect us all.
That's very, very real. Protect us all. And to that.
Sorry, I'll mute myself.
No, you're fine. This is Jordan Pater. My baby brother, Jay, was accused of touching her appropriately, raping his girlfriend, and all types of other wild stuff. She goes to Duquesne University, and his now ex-girlfriend goes to Duquesne University. Jordan told all these lies, so my brother found himself getting contacted by Duquesne University police department. Now, like, the shit was wild, so like it fell apart pretty quickly. But it's the fact that if it did not, like, if circumstances weren't just so, my brother would likely be in jail, possibly would have lost his life, all types of wild stuff. Like, and she just did it because she thought the shit was funny, I guess. I learned further, like, as this was unraveling, after I found out about it, that she was also, her and her little boyfriend, the little boy that's seen in this picture here, was telling, in my understanding of it, was telling the boys' roommates that Jay is in some nefarious street gang. Is in some street gang and was coming to kill them all. Like, and so all the boys, to my knowledge, all the boys' little friends that moved out of their apartment because they thought my brother was coming to kill them for some reason. Now, if anybody that knows my brother knows that he's not the kid, which is why also, unfortunately, would have put him in a position to be stabbed several years ago. He's just not he's not a street kid. Like, he would not even think in those sort of terms. So, like, to say that Jay's in some sort of gang is hilarious to me. But also, all of these things that she could have unraveled my brother's life, right? And I ain't got but one more. Like, anything else happens to the kid, like, y'all ain't gonna know me. Y'all ain't gonna see me. Like, that's a very real thing. Like, that is just a very real thing. So to Nick's point, like, I absolutely understand. Like, that white woman tried to destroy my brother, and I'm still coming for Duquesne. I want her gone. Like, she's not a safe person. I don't want her in the city for real. But if I can't kick her out the city,
back, I'll follow up.
Look, like, I want her out the school. So if y'all know anybody at Duquesne University, the president or otherwise, like, give them a call. But there'll be more on that here soon. But anyway, just wanted to, draw that connection, that distinction that Nikki said. Like, when you have all, like, your family members, like, we know how to treat our family members, right? So if it's not okay for our own people to be treated a certain way, it's not okay to treat other folk that way, especially when they're our own black people. And black women can make shit up too. And I ain't saying nothing towards the young women involved in FlowerHouse or the young women involved in BlaQHouse. But the reality is that we ain't always right. Like, we can mess up. And sometimes, like, when we're hurt, we don't know how to express it, and it comes out however it comes out. I think the responsibility of the community is to be like, okay, like, let's create some safety. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's see how everybody was hurt, and let's figure out how we're going to move forward. That includes reparations. That includes, like, reconciliation, acknowledgement, validation, because when it doesn't happen, that's when it turns into trauma, when it really doesn't have to. And they were going to say something.
I'm just adding on to what everybody has been saying so far. All those things you just named and operating in love. Like, we gotta stop coming at each other on some crazy destructive manner. Like, we have to, if your goal is to, make somebody accountable for something, you still got to do that in love. When my children do something, I can't just haul off and be like, like, everything I do has to be in love, because that's their life. Like, this is their life. Like, the way I interact with them, the things that I teach them, the manner in which I do it in, that's the manner in which they will continue to move in life and to exist and thrive. And so, like, we are all evolving people. We are all children, all growing, all these things at once. And if we as a community, when we come to address things, we have to continue to do it in love, not one above the other, not a power trip, not this crazy dynamics. Love. Like, sorry, it's the love like source. But yeah.
Can I say something, Shannon? I want to piggyback off what Naomi, Nikki, and Darnell are saying is basically you cannot cancel culture. We don't own culture. Culture is ancestral. It's a privilege to even be a vessel for culture. When you think you're canceling culture, it's a illusion. You are doing the work of the oppressor, and you're doing more harm. And it's basically your ego. Yeah, it's basically your ego. You're doing the work of the oppressor.
Word up. Thank you, Sent. All right, y'all. I didn't held y'all here for an hour and 40 minutes because I just love y'all so. And this is a really important conversation. But I do agree with Nay, like this should continuously be a conversation, and this should be the start of doing the actual work, which I feel like is the case, right? Like, you know, like I said, I love everybody involved. Like, I know the folks that's on the other side of what's going on with BlaQHouse, those are the people too, but also like being able to say like, yo, like this ain't cool, you know, like in which there's space to do that. And there was space to do that. And so I know for a fact there is a wanting to figure out how do we do this, right? Like, let's get on right footing with each other. And let's figure out how do we do that. So I'm hoping that is the case for Nick Sent, for Nay and Dali, for everybody else to like figure out what does it look like for us to actually protect each other? Like, what does it look like for us actually to be in community with each other? You know, because we cannot continue to like to try to burn some shit down every time like we get into it with each other. Like that cannot be the continuous, right? That cannot be the continuous. So all that to say, is there any last words for any of y'all? Anything else that y'all feel is important to be said here?
I'm just really looking forward to working with both of you. This is the first time that I've formally met you. I'm excited that you're artists. I'm excited for your healing. And I'm just excited to be able to know that you're still here. You're still here after being allegedly canceled. You're still here. You're still smiling. You're still vibrant. You're still ancestral. You understand what it is to go through the fire and make it out. And I am just so glad that you have each other. You seem like a wonderful support system to each other, and that you have your children. And Nay, from woman to woman, sister to sister, queen to queen, I swear to G, you will be greater than you ever were, because there is promise in you, and it's not promise of anybody else, not the community. I can see it in you. And I know me and Sent be on the spiritual level thing vibe. I know she can see it in you. You can like feel it through the picture. You know what I mean? And just seeing that, you know, you have this heart that is still reaching back to this sister who was abused, and that you have been able to see from her lens and still want to heal and not hurt as much as hurt as that you've endured. That's Black girl magic all day. So I'm definitely looking forward to meeting you in person. I'm looking forward to working with you, and I'm looking forward to all of us canceling cancel culture. That's all I got.
Just real quick, piggybacking off of what Nikki said, as Darnell and Naomi, you were a strength to me. Like I said, Naomi, I didn't know of, I learned of you from your husband. He's friends with people in this space I'm in Nafasi. And your story gave me strength, because when I was going through what I was going through, it was very painful, my first incident. And as Darnell shared the story of what you two went through, it gave me strength, saying, wow, this is nothing new. And I was able to hear his story and hear his pain, but also be able to hear his strength to say, I don't know where we're going, but we're going to continue this legacy. So thank you very much. And like I said, I heard of you from other people, and I know we're going to be working together. And thank you, Shannon, for being the bridge, and thank you, Nikki, for being the partner that you are. And yes.
I ain't really got much for I just want everybody to know ain't no beef. It's all love. You know what I mean? I appreciate all y'all. Anything y'all need, holla.
Yes, Nikki Joe sent. I can't wait to work with y'all. I thank y'all so much for y'all words. And yes, I also have received so much strength from y'all just listening to y'all talk, listening to your reaction to things. This has been big in my healing. I feel like I only have, I don't know, just a little bit to go, and I appreciate y'all so much. And I think that me keeping it inside probably has been some of the problem. I'm an Aquarius. I keep my feelings tucked, but they be burning inside. Yeah. So I thank y'all. And I think all y'all, the different ways that y'all react to it. Nikki Joe, you remind me a little bit of my husband and your reaction to things. But yeah, no. And I just want anyone who was involved, if y'all want to speak with me, reach out. I'm open. Like I really am. And I don't know if that'd be something y'all would be into, but it has helped me the first time. I don't know how much it can help y'all, because I know y'all's hurting too. I know it was all out of hurt. It was confusing to me at first. I didn't understand it, but it was all out of hurt. So I love everybody. Thank you, Shannon, again. You know I was scared to do this. I was about to call you like, I don't think so, dog. Let Darnell handle it, but thank you. Thank y'all.
I'm so thankful that you pulled through. I had a feeling that, like, you don't know, but we're going to do this. I wasn't even going to acknowledge that.
Naomi, you can hear me because I was muted, but you said Nikki and your husband, they're both Geminis.
Gang, gang. It's our season, bro.
Now you're muted.
What are you?
I'm a Leo.
Okay, I was trying to figure out how, because working with a Gemini is a special, it's a special gift that I not only do we work, like I think of Geminis as our resident geniuses. I mean, there's different types of geniuses.
Definitely.
There are a special type of genius that I don't think a lot of people get a chance to appreciate. So, congratulations on your pet. It's frustrating as hell, but it's rewarding. Nikki, I don't know if you're as bad as D, but we be boom, 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 boom. Yeah. But I wouldn't have it no other way.
We are a rare breed, but I will say this. It's a blessing, because you can always see having twins, both sides of every situation. It kind of makes you indecisive, but it also makes you firm in your convictions when you do find where you want to land. And with that said, Shannon, you are a real one. I am so grateful for you, for the Narrative Justice, for CS Podcast, for the Wellness Collective, for everything that you do. You stand up for the community in ways unimaginable. And that's what I mean about this cancel call. You can't cancel the type of work that us women are doing, because it's always going to come back to the roots, which is community. And I just hope that each and every one of you just continue to fight for the healing, because the healing is what's going to keep you going. It's going to keep you walking in purpose. Man, y'all going to get me all on my feelings. I'm taking the camera off.
Most definitely. And Nick, yeah, it's definitely in the healing that pushes you further. It's like, the culture, it's your passion and your purpose that drives you forward, but that healing is absolutely essential, because like, we're here. But I can tell you there are days that I didn't think I was going to survive it, because it's so painful, like as people, like we rely on each other. We need community. And so to be cut off from community and then to be lied on in that, and that's how you're being cut off from community, to not be seen or heard, to be silenced, to be erased, to be like for your resources to be cut off, to know that there are so many people that are participating, to not know who those folks are, like that shit hurts. Like it hurts, and so like we're sitting here, and it's beautiful, and this is it's pivotal and it's changing, but I'm thinking about all the people who are not here. You know, suicide is such a real thing that we do not talk about, you know, and the loss of community, the lack of community, the cutting off of community is absolutely paramount to loss in that way, you know. So yes, I appreciate all of y'all for, you know, coming on, telling your story, you know, giving to, because like your experience is not your own, right? Like our experiences are not our own. And there are people who are out here who've had the same similar experiences and they're trying to figure out how to navigate through it, right? Like, and they're trying to find their own voice and trying to find a space for it, for their voices. So like it's so important that you all shared your experience, you know, and are coming together because this is community as well. So thank you all. To Nikki's mentioning of all the things that, you know, that I be getting into. As a reminder, the Wellness Collective is operating a drop-in center in McKeesport from now until September, December, we'll see. So if you need help with your rent, utilities, anywhere in Allegheny County, feel free to drop in. There are other drop-in centers, and you can also call Action Housing and connect that way, or you can go online and apply at covidrentrelief.alleghenycounty.us. But if you want to check us out or just come down because we're there, our drop-in center is 337 Fifth Avenue, McKeesport, PA, 15132. We also have a food pantry there. So if you'd like to donate or receive from the food pantry, you can come down, same address. That's Homegirls. You can come and check us out. We'll soon have a clothing thing. I don't know what to call it. A closet is what people call it. Anyway. But if you need clothes or whatever, soon we'll have that as well. Like we'll also be partnering with BlaQK Collections. They will be bringing their art gallery and opening a second one in the space that we're in because it's a lot of space and that's going to be dope. So look out for more information on that. There is also a co-ed shelter, 24-hour shelter around the corner from us at 523 St. Clair Street, McKeesport, PA 15132. They are currently looking for Black hair care and body care products. They want to make sure that they are respecting their Black residents. So if you can donate to them, or if you can donate monetarily or a product, please contact Aubrey Plesh from Team PSBG. You can find them on Facebook. And lastly, tomorrow, as a reminder, you can catch today's news, Changing Our Narrative, on Mondays at 7 p.m. You can catch them on KQ Productions Facebook page. You can also catch them on YouTube at Black News 325 and Twitter Black News 325. And that will be all for tonight. Thank you all for joining us and see y'all next week.
I'm assuming they're